Hello, everyone. Today's topic is going to be on competing, right? So, this is another one that I was really bad about when I was in my mid 20s and somewhat when I was younger, but I wasn't as far along in my career as I was in my mid 20s to be able to cause the impact that I did. So let me paint a picture, right? We all have this inclination. I'm going to go into an organization. I'm going to be the best person I can be, and I'm just going to wow all my managers and my fellow employees, and everyone's going to love me, and I'm going to be the best employee, right? Rarely is that actually how it works out. When you go into an organization and you blow out your competition, when you outperform your peers by such a high level by such a high metric, right, you make other people look bad. Whether that is your intention to do or not, you make other people look bad. Remember, here's the key. Perception is reality. If they feel threatened by you, then you're threatening them. And I say that in the sense of context. Keep that in your mind moving forward. So I went forward hard charging, getting all the credentials I could get, right? Doing all the big projects I could get my fingers into, everything that was abstract, difficult, no one could solve. I was like, yeah, I got this. And I'd jump on board and I'd aggressively push through it and I'd shove anyone who was an obstacle out of my way. And I engaged in a behavior that was very deleterious, right? Very disastrous to the organization I was working for. And this is why, right? Yes, I did accomplish everything I set out to do, right? Always. I got it done. I was frequently known by senior leadership as the guy that if I couldn't do it, it couldn't be done. I was known by my peers and people in other departments as a problem, right? They didn't want to work with me. If they heard me contacting because I wanted to do XYZ, they would immediately push back on the spot because they just didn't even want to deal with me. They didn't want me to get any more credit from leadership. There were a lot of problems that were associated with this. And a lot of it was my fault. And that's going to be the focus on this one, right? There is a thin line between being competitive and being intimidating. Right? Being competitive, I want you to think about team sports, right? If you are a sports team and you are like just dominating your field and no other teams want to play against you, right? Chances are audiences don't really want to show up and watch your games. Chances are people don't want to play against you anymore. Chances are everyone just is like, you know what, those guys are arrogant, cocky, blah, blah, blah. And it loses that push to be better for everyone else, right? When you compete, you don't necessarily destroy your competition, right? You just perform highly enough. That way your competition always feels that they can beat you and they still have the desire to play the game, right? And I'm really clear about that. Maintaining their desire to play the game. Because at the end of the day, most things that you will do in life are things that you have to do collaboratively. You are not the only person. And even if you are, right? You look at the skills of a surgeon, right? A surgeon can put a Band-Aid on, a bandage, right? An adhesive bandage. A surgeon can put an adhesive bandage on a patient, but is that the best use of that surgeon's time? Right? Because regardless of how effective that surgeon is, regardless of how fast they are, regardless of how successful they are, when putting that adhesive bandage on, that still takes time. Keep that in mind. That's time wasted. That's time where if you didn't blow your competition out of the water so badly that they didn't want to play the game anymore, they could have supported that and you could have better flexed your team resources to accomplish that. So around the age of 26 or 27, I started identifying the negative impact I was having on myself and my professional career through those behaviors. And I started to focus more on other people, right? I was still being competitive, but instead I focused on how can I challenge myself to get other people to perform better. If someone's standing in the way and refusing to help us out with such and such project, how can I identify what it is about them? And I started studying a concept called accountability management a lot. I got really into the Vital Smarts series, specifically crucial accountability on this one, and start trying to diagnose, okay, why do people do what they do? Either because they want to or don't want to, or because they can or they can't. Motivation and ability. Okay, well, within the motivation and ability, you have personal motivation and ability, you have social motivational ability, you have hierarchical or organizational motivation and ability. And these things all help me to better diagnose where I was having my disconnects. Second thing I had to do was lower some of my standards, or at least adjust. I didn't always have to lower, but adjust my standards. A lot of times I would take projects away from other people because I just didn't like the way they did it, right? I wouldn't have done it that way. So I'm going to take this back away from you and I would do it the way I want to do. Wrong answer. Wrong answer, right? Instead, what I started working on myself for is to understand my ability to communicate my vision. Right? And when I say communicating my vision, here is where we are. Here is where we want to be. Here is how we're going to get there. Right? At least clunky. Right? At least a rough estimate to how this is where I want to be, and then define my mission of here's how we're going to get there, and allow my team, the people I was trying to influence, to establish their objectives. Sometimes I didn't always get what I wanted, but if I crafted my vision well enough, what I started identifying, if I crafted my vision well enough, they would account for other things like future projects that I wanted to tie this into, right? They would account for those things. And it wouldn't always, the final result didn't always look the way I would wanted it to look, right? But the question I had to ask myself was, just because it doesn't look the way I wanted it, does that mean it's not as good? Does it meet all the requirements? Does it do what I need it to, right? This allowed me to get a lot more buy-in, a lot more collaboration from teams. It allowed me to be viewed a lot less as a threat, because that was the biggest challenge. Like, it got to the point where people saw me and they didn't want to work with me. And at the time, that self-awareness thing, it's like, I can see people don't want to work with me, but why wouldn't they want to work with me? I'm like the best person on the team. I'm the one that can do everything. Why wouldn't they want to work with me? That's why, because I was being a jerk about it. Honestly, I was being a jerk. And because I lacked the sagacity, the wisdom to understand that what I was doing was causing harm, right? Because I didn't consider my reputation with my team. I only considered my reputation as far as my success was concerned. I burned a lot of bridges. Some of those bridges could never be repaired because there's people who will never forgive me for some of the stuff that I pushed ahead and did despite their resistance, right? But at the end of the day, these are lessons we learn, and this is why I share these lessons with the internet. Remember, if these lessons don't always fit to you, then feel free to plug and play. These are modular. I just try to support in ways that I feel will be most beneficial to help you save some of the stress and frustration that I experienced finding my way in my life. Anyways, thank you and have a wonderful day.